Hi everyone. Today we're going to look at the second method that we can use to solve rational equations. And we're going to use this method when we have three or more terms. Now the first step in our process, the step that's in our blue here, we have to multiply each term by the LCD. And LCD stands for the least common denominator. Now when we look for the LCD, we're going to look at our denominators. So 2x, 10, and 2. I'm going to go ahead and just write those over here. 2x, 10, and 2. Now 10 could be rewritten as 2 times 5. I'm going to write it in terms of its prime numbers or prime factors. Now looking at this, all three of those terms have a 2. So our LCD will have a 2. And if we look at the first term, 2x, it has an x. So I'm going to need an x in my LCD. And then our middle term 10 involves 2 and a 5, 2 times 5. So that 5 also has to be included in our LCD. Now if we multiply this together, 2 times 5 is 10. So our LCD would be 10x. So if I were going to work out this problem, every term here would get multiplied by 10x. Now if needed, we'll have to distribute. So that x plus 5, if we were to work out this, would have to get multiplied by that 10x. So the x would get multiplied by that as well as the 5. Once you multiply and distribute the LCD, you should end up with an equation that does not have any fractions. That's the goal, to get rid of the fractions. So once you're rid of the fractions, then we can move on to solving the equation and figure out what our variable equals. Now once you solve for the variable, you want to make sure that you check it by plugging it back into the original equation. If the original equation becomes a true statement, then you know your answer is correct. It's not a no solution problem. So I want to try out an example here. Okay. And our equation here is 8 over x plus 11 thirds equals negative 14x. So just like above, we want to find that LCD first. Now our first fraction has an x. Second term has a 3 as the denominator, and then that other term is x as well. So your LCD has to have all of the factors included. So our LCD here will be 3x. So that means every term in that equation will get multiplied by 3x. So I took my equation and I multiplied everything by 3x. So that 3x is going to be distributed to every term in the equation. So the 3x will get multiplied by 8 over x. The 3x will get multiplied by 11 over 3. And the 3x will get multiplied by negative 14 over x. Now at this point, you can simplify this. You notice on that first expression, 3x times 8 over x, the x's can factor out. So you're left with 3 times 8. On the second part there, 3x times 11 thirds, the 3's can factor out. So you're left with x times 11. And finally, on the right-hand side, the x's can factor out there. So we have 3 times negative 14. So we would get this next line here. 3 times 8 plus x times 11 equals 3 times negative 14. Now 3 times 8 gives us 24. X times 11 gives us 11x. So on the left-hand side, we have 24 plus 11x. And then on the right-hand side, 3 times negative 14 gives us negative 42. So now we can start to solve the equation. We want to get x by itself. So now I can subtract 24 from both sides to get that 11x by itself. When I do that, I get 11x equals negative 66. Next up, I'm going to divide both sides by 11. So negative 66 divided by 11 gives us negative 6. So x is negative 6. Now we don't want to just assume that's the correct answer, we want to double check. So I'm going to go back to the original. 8 over x plus 11 thirds equals negative 14x. And I'm going to replace all of those x's with negative 6. So I have 8 over negative 6 plus 11 thirds. And we want to see if it equals negative 14 over negative 6. Now, looking at that 8 over negative 6 and negative 14 over negative 6, those can be reduced. They all have factors of 2, so everything can be reduced by a multiple of 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. But I'm going to go ahead and move that negative to the numerator to make it a little easier to work with. So I'm going to be adding on 11 thirds. Now on the right-hand side, the 6 and the 14 have a 2 in common. And they're both negative, so that's going to become a positive number. And we end up with 7 thirds. Okay. My right-hand side is still 7 thirds. Now negative 4 thirds plus 11 thirds is also 7 thirds. So both sides are equal, so this would be our correct answer. So x equals negative 6. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave those on Google Classroom, or you can send me an email. I did put up a Math Excel assignment for this section, so you can look at the Math Excel assignment. It's pretty short, shouldn't take you too long. If you have any questions on those, just let me know. Also, you can always use that Help Me Solve This or view an example. And there's also the Khan Academy link that you received last week if you wanted to use that to check your work or to get more examples of this. Talk to you later. Bye.